Pastor Charlotte Gambill.
I didn't say you could sit down. How are you? Well, I'm glad you're so excited to see me. I'm so excited to see you too. It took me a long time to come to see you, let me tell you. There were points in the journey where I did think about not seeing you. Not really. 32 hours of delayed flights. I have had 3 hours of sleep in the last 2 days. Lost my luggage. I have no luggage. But by the grace of God, I am here tonight. So, all that being said, I know I'm here for a reason. I know I'm here with a word to bring into this conference to add to what everybody else is doing. And it's a joy and a privilege to be here. And we've been excited, and God has already come in his presence and his power in the worship. But you know, I'm just going to ask us just to still our hearts for a moment. It's often at conferences like this that, you know, there's so much going on. So much fun. I mean, I don't know how many thousands of pounds worth of brisket that they just announced will be appearing later. I don't even know what brisket is, but I'm pleased for y'all. We don't have anything that's called that in England. We eat real food. Oh, be quiet. So there's going to be an after party, and we already partied in worship. I'm just going to ask, just for us to still our hearts, just a moment, we're going to pray. I'm just going to ask, just as the keyboard's just playing behind me, we're just going to still our hearts just for a second. We're just going to pray, because prayer positions you, okay? Just like in the worship when we were singing and raising our hands and thanking God and celebrating who he is, it positions you. And in that moment, God's able to touch you, and he's able to speak to you, and he's able to strengthen you. And sometimes when it comes to the word in church, we sit down and we think that somehow the presence of God is not as powerful because the band got off the stage. But you have to understand that it's not to do with the band, and it's not to do with the smoke and the lights. It's to do with the position of your heart. And right now, we're going to open the most powerful book that there is to open, the Bible. And God's going to speak into our lives. But here's what I'm asking. I'm asking you to position your heart. So just close your eyes right where you're at. Forget about the person at the side of you right now, or behind you, or the distractions. And just for a second, just focus. Father, we just focus on you. You are our source. There are many different journeys in this room tonight. Many different stages of life. Many different concerns and many different dreams. But we all share our same love for one God. So God, I ask you tonight, as we position ourselves to lean into your word, God, you would deposit in every heart seed that the enemy cannot steal. Seed that will grow within us, that will take root, that will grow something strong and beautiful for your kingdom. Lord, I pray for every single person in this room and watching right now at Daystar. Lord, I pray that you would help them hear you. Help them lean in and eat of your word that is life to our bodies. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the privilege of being able to open your word. Thank you for the power that is within. And Lord, we say tonight, have your way. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. You may take your seats. Thank you. Tonight, I want to challenge you, and I want to challenge you individually, and I want to challenge us corporately. I want to speak a word into you personally, but I want that word then to permeate through everything that you are connected and attached to. Tonight, I'm praying that this word would bring some reconciliations in the room. I'm praying that this word would strengthen a generation. I'm praying that this word would do something amongst you and your youth group that you're here with. And I'm praying that this would add something of a layer of strength to the church that you represent. I'm praying that God would weave all those factors together as we sit under the power of his word. I want you to realize tonight that this age group that you represent, whether you are in here and you're 12, whether you're in here and you're 16, whether you're in here and you're 18, or whether you're in here and you're beyond, the generation that you represent in the age group of this student conference is often seen as a generation that you could say feel that somehow they are in waiting. If you're between the age of 12 and 18, you could see that you are kind of in this period of life that you might think, well, I'm just waiting. You know, I'm waiting until I get my driver's license. Then I will be free. I'm waiting until I can date, and then I will be complete. I'm waiting until I graduate, and then I will have my own free time. I'm waiting until I have a job so that I can have my own money that I can do with what I choose. I'm waiting for the one that knows that I am the one. I'm waiting for my moment of recognition where I will be called out and I will be given and entrusted the microphone that you and I know you deserve. I'm waiting to be appointed. I'm waiting to be chosen. I think you are a generation in many ways that feel that they are in waiting. But I have news for you tonight. You are not a generation in waiting. You are a generation that needs awakening. Your time is not later. Your time is now. Your time is not when you get to 18 or 21. Your moment in history is now. And if you have a mindset of I am waiting until something happens to me that is outside of my control, until some magic number of an age happens in my life, and then I can step into my destiny, I want you to know that while you're waiting, you are wasting your opportunity. That while you are sitting back waiting for something or someone to do something or someone for you, then you know what? You are missing out what God has already promised to you. And tonight I want to awaken in you the responsibility of the age range you represent. I want you not to settle into the status quo of so many others that are in the age range that you represent. I don't want you to sit back in some kind of apathy or think, well, you know what? Later it will happen, when later is now. There is a responsibility that God wants to drop on you this evening. There is an awakening on the inside of you that you need to get and you need to grab a hold of. I don't know what you think that you have to look like to be qualified, but I'm pretty sure that the disciples didn't look like they were qualified. They were all young guys. They were all young guys just kind of doing their own thing, going about their own life. And Jesus saw them and he said, I'll take you, and I'll take you, and I'll take you. And you know what? He didn't say, I'll take you when you've been through this course, or I'll take you when you've jumped through these hoops, or I'll take you when you've qualified this class. He said, if you're willing to come with me, you're ready now. When Jesus was 12 years of age, his parents thought that he was following behind them to where they were going back home. And they were completely unaware that Jesus was not in the group that day, because Jesus knew that he needed to be somewhere. He needed to be in his Father's house. He needed to be under the Word. He needed to be around the wise counsel. He needed to be positioning himself for the destiny that was within him. And at 12 years of age, he sat in a seat that said, I am not waiting anymore for people to give me permission. Time has come for me to step into the position that God has put on my life. And you know what? He was 12. And there are some 12-year-olds in this room that you don't even think past your breakfast or what you're going to wear. But we'll never change a generation unless we awaken what is within us now. Unless we stir up the gift that is inside us now. Unless we get serious now about changing the world now with what God has given us. When Paul said to Timothy, a young guy, he talked to Timothy and he said, Timothy, the famous verse that we can often quote in 1 Timothy 4 verse 12, he says to Timothy these words. He says, Timothy, don't let anyone look down on you because of your young and because of your youth. And a lot of young people at that point say amen. Because we don't want anyone to look down on us because of our youth. But listen to this. He says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. But instead, this is what I want you to do. I want you to set an example for others. I want you, Timothy, to set an example in your speech, in your conduct, in your love, in your faith, and in your purity. And Timothy, until I come, I want you to devote yourself, not someone devote for you. Not your parents make you be devoted, or your youth pastor make you be devoted, or the people around you force you to be devoted. Timothy, I want you to devote yourself to the public reading of Scripture, and I want you to devote yourself to your preaching and to your teaching, and I don't want you to neglect the gift that is upon you. And I want you, Timothy, to be diligent in these matters, and I want you to give yourself wholly, not partly to them. I want you to give yourself wholly to them so that everyone may see your progress. Watch your life, Timothy, closely. Wow. Persevere, because if you do, you will both save yourself and those who hear you. I guess if I was able to sit you down one by one, as an older lady, not that old, but older, 42 years of age. Thank you. If I was to sit you down, I would say, I know some of you are in shock from that fact, just get over the shock. If I was to sit you down, I'd want to say to you the same thing. I'd want to call you by your name, and I'd say, Timothy, Susie, Jennifer, Matt. I say, you know what? You need to devote yourself to the reading of Scripture. You need to devote yourself to the voice of God. You need to give yourself to living a life that models purity and models a love and models a faith. You need to devote yourself now, not later, because there'll come a time when people turn to you for wisdom and turn to you for advice. And if you've been sat there waiting for your moment instead of working in your moment, then you'll find that when they come to you, you have nothing to say and you have no wisdom to give them. And God is looking for those, whether they are 12 or whether they are 21, who are saying, I am willing to devote myself and I am willing to grow now in the things of God because I see the bigger picture that God has called me to. And I understand I am not an insignificant person, but I am a person whose God has put his hand upon, and my time is now. Where are those people? And if every one of us had that aha moment, how different would our churches look? How different would our youth groups look? How different would our schools and colleges look? Because no more would we have people walking around unaware of their purpose, but we'd have young people everywhere that were absolutely aware that they are positioned by God for such a time as this, with the word of God in their mouth, with the presence of God with them in the places where they go to school or go to work. And when you walk around with that awareness, everything about your life changes. And I'm asking you tonight, how aware of this are you? See, you often can buy into the generational thinking that goes on, where everything in this generation is here to serve you. You know, we live in a generation where it's all about me. It's all about, serving me. We've got Twitter to thank for that, and there's a lot of twits on Twitter, by the way, so be careful. And Facebook, where a lot of people need to get their face into the other book instead of that book. And now we have Periscope. Now listen, I'm all about that. And you are the selfie generation. You got that selfie pose down. You got that thing going on. But you have to be careful that you don't bring the selfie spirit into the house of God. We have to be careful that we don't have a generation that are selfie in the house of God. And I want to commend to us a motto tonight. A motto for you, a motto for your youth group, a motto that if we would take it to heart and if we would mean it, I think it could change the way that you operate inside your ministry, inside your youth, inside your church. And it's a motto that was made famous in a film that probably is before some of your time. And it's not really a cool film, so don't go look it up, because I tried to see if there was a clip and it was so bad. It was before all the special effects. But it was an old film, and it was about some guys called the Three Musketeers. The Three Musketeers. And they had a motto. Anybody know the motto? One for all and all for one. One for all and all for one. And I want to suggest tonight that the generation trap that your generation can fall in for is that they live one for one and all for one. They're like, I'll have it all for me, and then I'll keep it all for me. I'll have everybody look after me, serve me, put everything on for me. And you know what? The reverse of that needs to be true. We need to be a generation who understand that we are actually here to give back to the all. We're actually here not to just receive it all, but we're actually here to give back to it all. And if you understand that, then you have to begin to question your actions and ask, are you contributing or are you just taking? Are you receiving as much as you are giving out? Are you putting back what it is that you're taking? If we could build our youth ministry and our churches with a generation of 12 through to 20s where everybody understood that we are in this all for one and we're in this one for all, then it would change the way that we did youth ministry. What I mean by that is, when we think about Christ and when we think about how he came, he came and he gave his all. He gave all just for the one. He would give everything just for you. Everything just for you. That's how much he loves you. He'd do it all just for one. But when we understand that God did it all for one, we also have to understand that our job, therefore, is as the one on the receiving end of that, to give our all back for the big picture. That actually the way that this has to work is not just that God gives it all to one, but that one then gives their life for the all. That one person puts back in for the bigger picture. That's what God's looking for. That we would take what he has given us and then we would give back so that the all can be built, so that the kingdom can be established. And oftentimes what happens as young people is that the all is done for the one, and the one says, thank you very much. See ya next week. Thank you very much, youth pastors, for killing yourself all week. For moi. Appreciate it. But now, I'm going to go skating with my mates. Now I'm going to go party with my friends. I ain't got time to pick up after myself. I ain't got time to put my Coke can away. I haven't got time to attend, the discipleship program that you've worked so hard to put on for me. I ain't got time to come and do the Bible study that you've spent the last 5 weeks preparing, because you know what? I have a soccer game or a football team or, there's a party at school. So thank you for doing the all for the one, but this one will not be there for all. Now, I know this is a little close to home, and I know you might not have goosebumps right now, but that's okay. Because what I'm trying to show you is, if we're going to build something different to the generation we live in, if we're going to move away from the selfie culture that we live in, if we're going to be the ones that awaken what's on the inside of us, then we have to understand our responsibility to not just take everything for the one, but one of us also be for the all. So this conference didn't just happen, people. In fact, All those on the front down here that was responsible for helping with the conference, just stand up, you lead team, stand up. Okay. 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 No, you just stay standing a minute. Okay, now, let me just practically demonstrate this, okay? These guys here have given their all with the mindset of, we want to reach the one. They've given their all knowing one person would come from somewhere in Texas and find Christ this weekend. They've given their all in praying and preparing, not knowing who would come, but saying, you know what, for the one that's coming, we want this atmosphere to be saturated with God's presence. They've given their all in going and praying and preparing and saying, God, help us to help them. They've given their all, and many of them have their own families. And because they gave their all, they gave up time with their family. And they didn't go home and hang out with their children because they were down here planning for somebody else's children. And they worked long hours, not because they were paid to work long hours, but because their heart was breaking to reach the one 12-year-old that needs to know that God loves them. And so they were praying and they were believing and they were giving their all for the one. Question. If you're one of the ones, what are you giving back? Did you pray for the leadership team that were putting on this conference before you arrived? Did you spend any time late at night thinking, God, I'm going to intercede for the people at that conference that, like me, need a breakthrough and need to hear from you? Did you bring finance with you to sow into offerings because you said, God, I'm taking seed in my pocket to sow into the bigger picture of which I'm going to benefit from this week? Did you come as a youth team aware that this was your opportunity to come and bless another youth team because you are all for one and you are one for all? See, when you understand that it's not just one half of the scenario, but there's two parts to the scenario, it changes the way that you do life. It changes the way you show up. You can sit down. When you understand that your youth pastor spends all week preparing for you when it's not even their full-time job, and they spend time praying and not with their own children, and they spend time in the Word, and they spend time interceding, when you understand that they do that, you as a 13-year-old show up early on youth night. And you show up early and you start to put chairs out, not because anybody asked you to, but because you realize all for one and one for all. You realize this is not just about me showing up. This is about me helping. This is about me serving. This is about me contributing. And you begin to understand, when you understand that, young people, when you understand that it's all for one and one for all, you don't just sit in a building like this and think, this is nice. You know, you're sat in a chair that somebody in this church paid for. Somebody that probably doesn't even know you, somebody older, somebody maybe that's never going to have the benefit of being at a student conference. But you know what? Their giving put the lights on, put the heat on. Their giving helped you have this facility. Their giving helps you be here on this evening. Their giving helps this happen so that you can get your encounter with God. Why? Because they had a vision that was all for the one. But it's our turn, this turn of our generation, to say, I am also going to be one for the all. I'm not going to be someone that just takes church and leaves church. I'm not going to be someone that only shows up when the worship is to my particular beat and dance beat. I'm not going to be someone that only claps when it's the youth pastor that gets on the platform. I'm not only going to come to church on a Sunday when my soccer game doesn't clash. I'm not going to stay in bed because I don't feel like going. I am not just going to be a receiver. I'm going to be a giver back. I'm all for one and we're one for all. It changes how you speak to your parents. Hello. When you realize that they've given their all for one, that they're working extra shifts and they're doing extra hours so that they can help finance your school trip or your college, that they're driving you around like they are a taxi, but they don't get paid and they certainly don't get tips. And they ferry you from game to practice, to band rehearsals, to dance practice, to youth group, and they take you around and you jump out of the car without even a glance back. And they're giving their all for the one, but when you realize, no, there's two parts, it's all for one and it's one for all. Wow. You say, what can I do to contribute back to this family? I might not be able to be a taxi, but I can unload a dishwasher. Hello, we're getting really real tonight. I might not be able to pay the bills, but I can stop arguing with my siblings. I might not be able to take care of a lot of things in our home, but I can add peace instead of stress. Don't sit there, age 12, and say, that's beyond me. No, it is not beyond you. It's very much within you. And you know, we can talk about changing the world for Jesus. And we can talk about, you know, going out there and reaching thousands for Jesus. But you know what they're going to look at? They're going to look at your life. And they're going to look at your life. That's why Paul said to Timothy, devote yourself now. So that when the older people look to you, they're going to say, I'll listen because of your life. And when people come and talk to you, they're going to say, I'll listen because I see something different in you. You're not like the other people in college. You're not like the other people that I hang out with. We have to begin now to lead our lives in a different direction. We are all for one and we are one for all. I tell you, as a local church pastor, I don't want departments in our church that are all for themselves, but not all for the big picture. We don't want the youth to be all for youth and just for youth. We want the church to have an all for one and a one for all mentality. And I'm asking you tonight, are you contributing? Are you part of the answer? Are you making your youth pastor's job easier or harder? Are you being someone that just takes, or are you being someone that gives back? Because the challenge begins there to know whether or not you are devoting yourself. There's a story in the Bible of a young man. He was good looking. All the young good looking men said. You know you want an amen right there. Just say it. Just say it. Amen. He was the fourth in line, fourth son of David. And his story's in 1 Kings, and we don't have time to read it all, but the guy had an ego. The guy was not a musketeer. See, a musketeer, the role of a musketeer was that they fought to defend the king and the kingdom. That was the job of a musketeer. This guy was not a musketeer. This guy didn't want to defend the kingdom. He wanted to be the king. He wanted the kingdom. He had a it's all for me mentality. His name was Adonijah, and his story is in 1 Kings. And this guy decided that David was near the end of his life, and he was aging, and he hadn't really made a succession plan, although everyone knew Solomon was going to be king, but he'd not really set things in motion. And so this guy decided, you know what? I am going to make myself king. I am going to take all of this for moi. I will benefit from it all. And he began a plan to make the kingdom all about himself. And it says this, now Adonijah, his mother, Haggith, put himself forward and said, I will be king. So he got chariots and horses ready with 50 men to run ahead of him. I mean, this guy had a little posse going on. This guy, the click of his fingers, had horses, chariots, and some friends that were stupid enough to run in front of him saying, oh, how wonderful he is. Oh, how awesome he is. And sometimes in our young people's groups, we have similar things going on. If you have a posse in here, hello. Now listen, I was watching the secret camera before the meeting. There was a DJ up here, and there was some awful and awesome dance moves going on down there. There were some posses out there. One had a cowboy hat on and some terrible moves. Yeah, he had it all going on in his own mind. He said, I will be king, and he got chariots and horses, and he got all these guys to run in front of him. Listen to this. And his father had never rebuked him by asking, why are you behaving this way? He was also a very handsome boy. So this guy was good looking. This guy had privilege. This guy had position. And this guy decided, you know what, all of this I'm going to use for my advantage. And he began to set up his own little kingdom and his own little anointing party to make himself king. And so he decided to confer with some people, and he said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my own little party, and a few of them agreed. And then it says that Zadok, the priest, and a few other guys, Nathan the prophet, and some of David's special guards, they said, no, we don't think this is a good idea. And so this young man decided, well, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do my own thing anyway. And so he decided to throw a party. And the party would be to set himself up as king. And he says he invited those that had supported him, but it says in verse 10, he did not invite the people that had said, we don't think this is a good idea. And he did not invite his brother Solomon or the guards around him. You know, oftentimes in our youth ministry and as we're growing up, we have to understand that we have two choices. We can either set ourselves up with our posse, and we can start to be the kind of person that controls the guest list and says, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. Are you with me? And if you're not careful, what you'll do is you begin to support people who intimidate you. You get in the group of the person that you think is the one that's the most popular. And whatever they do is what you're going to do. And instead of one being for all, now one is for this person that's setting themselves up as the little group leader. And I don't know whether tonight you have fallen into the trap of following someone like an Adonijah Ryan, but I want to say to you tonight, it's not too late to take yourself off the guest list. It's not too late to say, you know what, I think I've been hanging with the wrong person, supporting the wrong cause. I think God is calling me to support something bigger than this agenda. And you know what, tonight I'm going to change. And instead of being about this, I'm going to be one for all and all for one. I'm not going to serve that person's agenda. I'm not going to be in that posse. I'm not going to be in that group. I'm going to come together and unite with those that are building something bigger. This guy threw himself a party. This guy began to say, I'm going to be king. And he got his cronies around him, and they began to have the cool kids party. Have you ever not been invited to the cool kids party? Amen. Glad I'm not alone. You know, there's such a pressure. There's such a pressure sometimes in this age range that you represent. There's such a pressure that people put on you, an expectation that people put on you. Friendship is a really tricky battleground at this age. You have this pressure on you to be in the popular group, or to hang with certain people, or to have certain values that are not one for all for one. And I just want to say to you tonight, I just want to kind of be a mama to you tonight, if that's okay. I have a 12-year-old daughter. And I've watched her at high school, because in England, when you're 11, you go to high school. Yeah. You go to high school at 11, and she gets on public transport. We have no school buses. And she rides on her own on public transport every morning at 7 a.m., and she goes to high school with 18-year-olds and all in between. And at 11, you have to grow up fast. And I've watched her go to school as one of the only Christians. And I've watched her have to navigate this concept of, well, which group do I join? And I tell you, if you don't know at 12 which group you're in, you're going to be really confused. Because when you're 13 and when you're 14 and when you're 15, if you start making the wrong choices, it's harder to get out of them. And this guy, he was like, are you with me? Because if you're with me, I'm throwing a party, and you better come, and you better agree to what I'm saying, and you better be for me, and you better be on my side. And there was a few that went, okay, and they ran ahead of him, and they said, all right, we'll be with you. But there were some that said, you know what, I don't think what you're doing is serving the bigger picture. I don't think you making yourself king is actually honoring of your father David. I actually don't think this is God's plan. I think this is your plan. I think this is you want us all to be for you, and you want all of this for yourself. But it takes a bold person to say, I don't think that's right. And it takes a bold person to say, I don't want to be at that party. It takes a bold person to say, I don't know why you've scheduled your party for the same night as our youth meeting. But I can't come to your party because I made a commitment to my youth group. And so why don't you move your party to a different night so that the two don't conflict, so that I don't have to say I can't come to yours and I can't go to that. Why don't you say instead of making it a choice? Some people are making things a choice in your life that you shouldn't even have to choose about. You should just make a decision. I'm all for one and I'm one for all. If that means I can't be there, then I'm not going to that. If that means I'm not supposed to speak to her, then I'm not going to be in that group. If that means I'm dissing that person behind their back, then I'm not going to be in that conversation behind their back. If that means by being in this company, I'm not allowed to be in that company, then you know what? Forget it. If that means signing up to be in this group means I will never be in church on a Sunday, then you know what? I'm not signing up to be in your group, because I'm making a decision that I'm all for one. And some of you are frightened you're going to miss out. Can I tell you, you will not miss out if you put God's all first. You will not miss out. This guy threw himself a party. You know what? The party was rubbish. Oh yeah, he had music and he had an entourage and he made it look really cool and he threw a party. But you know what? The people he didn't invite, the people that looked like they were the rejects that missed out, you know what happened? David said, you know what? I didn't know that was going on. But David invited all the ones that he had uninvited, and he said, you know what? We're going to have a party. Not the party that he's throwing, a different party where we're going to anoint the real king. And so he calls Solomon and he begins an anointing party to anoint the real king. And guess who gets to anoint the real king? The ones who didn't get to the fake king's party. And while they're all having their little party, God throws his own party. And while they're all doing what they think matters, God is doing what really matters. And while they're all serving their own agenda, God is serving the kingdom's agenda. And I'm telling you, you can be on a party with a group that are all for themselves, or you can be in God's company that is about the big picture. God will never, ever drop you off the guest list that matters. God will never, ever let you miss out. And the story, you should read it in 1 Kings 1. The story goes on to say how the anointing party begins to happen. And the anointing party of Solomon, the party that is one for all and all for one, because God was going to use Solomon. Why? Because Solomon was going to build his house. Adonijah wasn't going to build his house. He was going to build his own little kingdom. What do you want to serve? Do you want to serve something that builds your mate's kingdom? Do you want to serve something that just builds your own agenda? Do you want to give your life to hang with the cool kids that are just kind of trying to make themselves important? Or do you want to say, you know what, I'm cool not to be invited because I have a different priority? You know what, I'm fine if you don't include me because I know God will always include me. You know what, I'm secure to not be there because I know that God's got me. 14 years of age, I knew God was calling me. 14 years of age, I knew that I was called into ministry. And at 14 years of age, I found that I lost most of my friends. Because now I was choosing to be at youth instead of the cinema. And now I was going to the Bible study instead of the soccer game. And now I was hanging with a different group of friends that would help me build towards my future instead of the cool kids. And I realized actually the cool kids were the ones that were building my future, by the way. See, this guy, it says that he took out of his life all the voices that would say to him, I don't think that's a good idea. He removed from his life all the people that would tell him off. He removed from his life all the voices that would say, this is not right, this is not what you should be doing. He removed from his life all the accountability. He just put people around him that said what he wanted to hear. And I'm challenging some of you tonight. What voices are you allowing in your world? Because you need people in your life right now that will help you be a better you. You need people in your life who will say, you know what, I don't think that was a good choice. You know what, I don't think that's the right company. You know what, I don't think that's in keeping with your future. You need those voices in your life. And if you've cut them out of your life, I'm encouraging you tonight to put them back in. I'm saying to you to go to that youth leader and say, hey, I have not been all for one and one for all, and I want to be. Hey, I have not given my commitment like you have committed to me. Hey, I have not shown up when I said I would show up, but things are changing. Hey, I'm not just going to be at this youth conference and then go back and be someone that never shows up on our youth night. You know what? I'm not going to open my Bible and look cool in the student conference and then go back home and never show up for the Bible study you worked so hard for. You know what? I'm not going to be one of these people anymore that has a double standard life. I'm changing it. And you'll find that as you make those choices, though they'll be hard, that your destiny begins to open, and instead of being that person in waiting, what's in you awakens. I tell you, there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you're going to have to change your company. You're going to have to stop hanging with the wrong people. You're going to have a motto that says all for one and one for all. You know what happened? God began to anoint Solomon the real king, not the fake king. And it says the people began to shout. And as they began to shout, the ground began to shake. And now all the people at the fake party heard what was going on. And they said, oh, what's going on down there is that actually Solomon's been anointed. And when they realized that God was owning the party in the streets and not the fake party that they were at, guess what they did? Verse 49, all the party guests of Adonijah got up and made excuses and ran away. And I tell you, some of you think that those friends around you right now are friends forever. But if they joined you for what you've got going on or for the party you're throwing, they will leave you just as soon as there's a better one going on. So find people who are all for one and one for all. I'm asking you tonight, where's your commitment at? I'm asking you tonight, are you contributing? I'm asking you tonight, can you lift your level of saying, I'm in this. I want to serve this. Is there a conversation that needs to happen between you and your youth pastor? Is there a conversation that needs to happen between you and the posse that says, I think our posse has become a little bit exclusive. And I don't think we're really all for one, one for all. I think we need to include more people. I actually think we need to stop hanging in our little group, saving seats for just us, and say to everybody, you can sit with us. I think we need to throw the invitation wider. All across the room. If you're saying, I want to lift my level. I want, Lord, not just to be all of it for me, but I want to be one that's for it all. I want to express that commitment. I want to change the way I think. I just want you to stand to your feet. And as you stand to your feet, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to allow, just for a moment, just God to do what God needs to do. Some of you right now, you're in a group setting, you're with your youth group. And tonight, in this moment, is a moment for you to say to the people around you, I need you to know that I'm all for one and I'm one for all. I need to commit to you. I need to come around you. I need to encourage you. I need to embrace you. Hey, I need to reconcile something with you. I need to commit afresh. I need to thank you. I need to say, you know what, I'm sorry if I've been throwing my own party. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to include you. I want to involve you. I just, right now, as the band are just quietly playing, I don't want to do this for you. You need to do it. So there's going to be some movement in this moment. It's not going to be a close your eyes and come to Jesus moment. It's going to be a open your eyes and look that person in the eye and say, I need to tell you I'm all for one and I'm one for all. Some of you that have said to people, hey, I don't want to be corrected. Don't tell me off. You need to say, I'm sorry. I want to give you permission because I don't want to throw my own party. I want to be part of the bigger party that God has for me and for my life. So right now, let's just be some movement across the room, and then we're going to pray. If you're in a group, or just get in your group. If there's a youth pastor with you, just grab the youth pastor and absolutely drown them in love right now. Speak words of affirmation over them. Speak words of thanks over them. You do the work. Awaken what is in you. Find your people, nobody alone. If you see somebody on their own, include them, embrace them, say, hey, we're all for one and we're one for all. Okay, here's what we're going to do. When you found your people, just go quiet for a minute. Find your people and just go quiet for a minute. Okay, listen, here's what we're going to do. I want you in your groups right now. I want you in your groups right now. We're going to pray. You're going to pray over each other. You're going to pray words of affirmation into each other's life. You're going to pray words of encouragement over your pastors and your leaders. You're going to say, hey, I'm lifting my level. Hey, I'm committing. Hey, I'm stepping up. I want this room to be filled with prayer over one another. Come on, right where you're at. Just begin to pray. Pray blessing on each other. Pray encouragement over each other. All for one and one for all. Come on, let's worship.
sing it out. My heart is, we lift our hearts. My heart is yours. Take it all, take it all. My life in your hands. And my heart is yours. My heart is yours. Take it all, my life in your hands. Oh, my heart will sing no other name than Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Yes, my heart will sing no other name than Jesus. My heart will sing no other name than Jesus. Oh, Jesus. My heart will sing no other name.
How many of you, God spoke to your heart tonight? Isn't that great? Can we clap our hands and show our love and appreciation for Pastor Charlotte? What a great word. Man, such an awesome presence and like spirit here tonight. And, you know, I really believe this. It is just hearing her speak tonight that we can catch that. We can get a hold of that, you know, life's really not just about us being consumers. It's about us being contributors. What God could do with a generation if we braided our hearts together in unity around one man, Jesus, and said, God, use us. It's not just about me. I want to be a contributor in the earth today. I want to build your house, build your church, build your kingdom. God can do so much in and through our lives. Amen. Awesome. Hey, you know, I'd love to do this. Why don't we? Wouldn't you love to just sing like maybe one more song? Could we do like just one more song? Would that be good, Cody? And you know, I didn't get a chance to say this earlier, but I know we're about to bust up another song, but I really believe that Pastor Charlotte, and I didn't say this when I introduced her, but God really spoke to her. She doesn't normally do youth conferences. She speaks to all the big people. She speaks to the older people, but God spoke to her and said to begin to travel and to speak again into the next generation. God's really given her a burden and a heart, and I believe this, that my wife and I speak on behalf of our family, that her ministry has so impacted our life, her leadership, what God has done, the spirit at their church, the culture of their house is brilliant. And she's got a couple of resources, and they're going to be out in the bookstore and the merch store. So make sure you pick up some of those. And again, if you could be here this weekend, we're going to have a phenomenal time this weekend at church. And so come on, let's sing one more song tonight. We're going to end on a bang. It's going to be great.